Welcome to the STR Data Lab.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the STR Data Lab. I'm Jamie Lane, Chief Economist at AirDNA, and I'm joined here today by the queen of guest experience, Tyann. Welcome to the STR Data Lab.
Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate it. When you said, "Hey, come on the data podcast," I'm like, okay, my brain likes the creative stuff, but then again, I do know numbers, and I actually in college, Jamie, I don't talk about this a lot, but one, I totally failed like trig and geometry. But then there's a special test you can do out of high school when you go to college to say, okay, I know enough math that I don't have to take the college math course. And I literally passed it by the lowest point percentage period. So I never had to take college math. But I think what it is though is that like I passed all those genes on to my kids because like my oldest is an engineer and all these different calculus and this lab and that lab, and he had to retake calculus because he changed colleges. And I'm like, you got to retake calculus, really? He goes, Mom, that's such an easy class. It's no big deal. All right, cool.
Well, I'll let you know that I got a C in freshman English at college. And
There you go. So you put your brain with my brain, and we are awesome. I had English, I had advanced English, and then I switched to a different college. And that advanced English class, part of it was your project, you could choose to actually teach one of the classes within it. And one of the subjects was the class from my other college that I already did. So I pulled all my notes from that and said, I'm going to teach on this. Like, this is easy.
well, maybe enough about college English and math, but let's get into short-term rentals. So maybe just a quick primer for anyone who hasn't met you or heard you in the past. What is your experience in the industry, and what do you do here?
That is a lot of people do ask, what do I do? So I started way back, and I say way back, 2007, when you could mail physical photos to Verbo to put onto your listing, that long ago, right when I was pregnant with my third kid. So I started as what I call a hobby host because it was a second home. It was, yes, it was high risk, but it was a risk we were ready to take as well. And so we built our first vacation rental. I've always, started in the purpose-built vacation rentals. And we set it up in 5 days, and the first guest came 1 hour after finishing setting up this property, which means one of the things I do is I list dirt. So as soon as I have a contract signed in a general time frame, I am already taking bookings. So fast forward, I now have 2 property management brands in Missouri. So I have the historical properties that are rehabs. So I've done all the rehabs and things like that, as well as my bigger brand in Branson, Missouri, with the larger homes, and those are the purpose-built homes. And then I'm also with Touchstay Digital Guidebooks. I've been with them for, gosh, I think 6 years now or so. Queen of Guest Experience is my title. But what I do get to do is talk to people and help them just understand how important communications are, whether it's the digital guidebook or your communication flow, or just understanding how to communicate, period, with your guests and your team, and different ways that you can do that.
So that's a lot. And you're also a mother of three. So it's amazing. And one, your experience in the space, and then two, sort of leveraging that experience into a tech company, and that's sort of changing the way sort of we interact with as hosts, interact with guests, and sort of bring them in. So maybe we'll start with Touchstay, then maybe dive in on sort of how you use that in your vacation rental business. And we sort of and first started talking, I think it was around data, around communications. Because when I analyze data, and one of the things we see is sort of reviews on communication. So that's one of the ways that a guest can review a host is how well they communicate with them. And that was something that I had identified that was and a real pain point, especially for large professional managers. So maybe you can share a little bit with us about, and one, what does good communication look like? And what have you learned through your research around communication?
So I remember when you shared that slide, Jamie, originally, and I saw it and I'm like, yes, that is exactly. I can help those people. That is exactly what I can do. And so, okay, so last year, TouchState did what's called the guest communication study. It's the very first of its kind. We went out and asked over 2,000 travelers. A lot of times, the data within our industry, we're talking to each other, we're talking in a bubble, we're doing surveys of other property managers or hosts, and we're like, you know what? We need to talk to the travelers. What is the traveler's viewpoint on this? And so we asked them. We asked them, how many times do you remember receiving communications from your host or property manager when you stayed in a vacation rental? And we had to make sure, you did travel within last X months. You stayed at a vacation rental. We qualified all of this. And what we found is, it was depressing, Jamie. So depressing. They it was, I wanna say, like, 80% of folks said they either received 2 or fewer communications the entire time, from the time they booked to the time they stayed, and that was it. And of that 80% or so, roughly 20% did not remember receiving anything. And I'm like, "Whoa, how did you get in if you received no communication?" But what that does say is that means the communications sent were just forgettable. They don't remember getting them. So then we're like, "Okay, so if the real reason, not the real reason, but I mean, part of this is we wanna make money, right?" So we wanted to correlate how much money are guests spending in correlation to how much communication they're receiving. And so we said, ask them, did you find more things to do? Did you book more nights? Did you go to a restaurant? Did you see the local things? And then we crossed all that information. And what we found out was that the guests who received 6 or more communications actually spent quite a bit more money. And I'd have to go back and look at it, but to the tune of, I want to say, like 60% more money. It's like, whoa. I and then on top of that, we asked them, "How happy are you?" Okay,
Uh-huh.
so that relation to reviews of, the happiness point. And what we found is that little sweet spot is actually 3 to 5 communications. Now, when I say 3 to 5 communications, we also have to say quality communications. And that's one of the things you asked me was, "What's a good communication?" And it's gotta be quality. So that means it's not something that is completely forgettable where they say, "Oh, they never communicated with me, period." So when it's quality communications, you're giving them good information that they need. You're relaying it in a way that their brain understands. So that means you might actually be telling them 2 or 3 times. You might be telling them in an email, you might be telling them by text, you might be sending a link to a video and you have the information by video. Because, as we started this whole conversation off, you and I have 2 totally different types of brains. We process information completely different, and you don't know what type of brain your guest even has and how they're going to process information. So the thing is you're going to tell them, and then you're going to tell them again, and then you're going to tell them again, and then you'll probably tell them again, but not to the point of the whole TLDR, too long, didn't read, because no one wants to process that period. So your communications will need to be very focused, maybe 1 or 2 things at a time. And the great thing about a digital guidebook, and what I do with my guests, is I will say, "Hey, here's information," and I'm pointing one thing, and then I point them back to the guidebook. "Here's your information. Here's where you can find more things. If you don't see something there, let me know." But I'll make sure I hit all those different types of brains and processing. So there's email, there's text. I'll text them and say, "Hey, I just emailed you directions. Go check it out." And what that did is it got rid of every single question I used to get of, "Hey, where's my directions? I can't find them." And then we had to say, "Oh, well, we sent them to you, 3 days ago." "Oh, maybe it's in my spam. Oh, it got lost here. Oh, there it is." But by just putting that in that one tiny little text that says, hey, go check your email, there's something important, we completely got rid of that bit of noise and questions coming back to our team, which then frees up our team to do other things. And we focus on ordering more donuts to surprise our guests on their arrival. So, I mean, it's one of those things where by communicating more, you actually do less. And then you can focus on the super fun things.
So, what I heard from you, and correct me if I'm wrong. So, one, the creation of that digital guidebook where you can put all the information in is a great start. And
Yep.
then two, as you're sort of setting up your communications throughout in the lead up to a guest coming to stay at your place, call out one or two things in that digital guidebook in each communication. Always link back to the full digital guidebook, but your sort of ability to make sure that the guest like starts to process all those things that they need to know before they stay at your house. Like you've got a higher sort of chance of getting all that information across if you follow those steps. Is that right?
That is exactly right. And then what we do is we also put a QR code on the fridge. Everybody goes right at eye level so that if the booker does not share the guide with everyone else in their group, it's right there. Anyone can access it at the same time. And one of those things where, we use a lot of tech as property managers and hosts, but how much of that tech actually shows up in your guest reviews? Well, no one, except for digital guidebooks like Touch Day. I mean, it's seriously every week we get several reviews with several comments from guests saying, "Oh my gosh, this is the best information ever. We have had such a wonderful time." Jamie, I even had a guest the other summer tell me on arrival that this was the best information ever, and they're ready to leave me a 5-star on the first day when I actually came to go fix a dishwasher. So they had a problem, but because of our communications and they'd gotten to know us, and because of all the information we helped them to plan, they're like, hey, we've been doing this for 30 years with a large family, and this has been the smoothest process ever because you have helped us plan. We know what to expect, we know what to do. This is incredible.
That's awesome. And then you also mentioned some data around increasing revenue and based on the amount of communication that you're sort of providing. And I heard you say a few different things in terms of sort of touch points that can cause maybe increase in revenue. And one I think I heard you say was around increased bookings. And I know we all have this problem around gap nights. You've got someone staying maybe there's 2 nights in between stays. You're very unlikely to get those 2 nights booked out. But by communicating with the guests, sort of maybe offering a discount on those nights, either the person sort of extending their trip or coming earlier. And that is a point of communication where you can offer a discount and then potentially get a happier guest and increase your revenue, not have that unit sitting empty. So, is there and you're the queen of guest experience. What's the right way to go about that type of upsell? Because I think there's going to be a couple other upsell opportunities, and like creating that right tone of like, I would really love you to give me more money. And what are the ways that I can convince you to do that without very much additional effort on my own part?
Yeah, so that's very much going to depend upon whatever your business model is and how you've trained the guests to listen to you and how you're communicating to them. So, it could be very hands off where you have an automated message from your PMS and that's set up to know, oh, there's a gap night. They want me to, the system says, okay, we're going to this discount and we automatically send it at X days before arrival or X days before departure, and it's totally automated. So that's one way you can do it. What the way we've been doing it this summer, we're more of a hands-on type of company. So we're a boutique. We handle 14 properties, large properties in Branson, and we call our guests. We actually call them on arrival. We call them a week or so before arrival as well. So we help them. Hey, do you guys want to get tickets to the local show? We know the best ones. By the way, we've got this really great offer from a partner where you buy a general ticket through us and you get automatic upgrade to VIP and backstage pass. And then you have that conversation. And then when we see, oh, okay, there's an open night, there's an orphan night. Will be okay. Hey, by the way, this is open. You guys want to extend your stay? And use that language that we're used to talking to them in our ways. It's no, we're not formal, we're fun. And so what everyone needs to do is look at how they communicate with their guests and make sure they keep it on brand for that, because it's going to be really, really odd if you're communicating, everything is automated, and then all of a sudden you get this other message that says, "Yo, Jamie, I got an extra night, dude. I got a discount. I'll cut you a deal, man." So keeping it on brand and what you guys normally do is going to be the best thing for sure. But I do like the wording, extending your stay versus adding a night, because I mean, like our Branson market, a lot of folks, they want to get the best deal possible, and they're smart. And what they'll even do is, oh, you have the night before available? Well, I don't want to add on a night, but I would love to have early arrival. Can we come at 10 a.m.? And it's like, whoa, 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 wait a second here. So instead, we use the word extend your stay, and that has helped dramatically with just the framing of it.
Mhm. The other sort of thing I picked up on when you were talking is around reviews and sort of mentioning of guidebooks. So it probably won't surprise you that we've got data on this. So we collect every review that's ever been left on Airbnb. And I did a word analysis of how many times people actually mentioned guidebooks in the reviews. One of the things we found is one, in just the US, there's 25,000 reviews that mentioned guidebooks. And of that, 99% of those reviews were for a 4 or 5 star rating. So essentially, like, if someone's going to mention your guidebook, there's almost no chance of a bad review after that. So there were some weird ones of like, they mentioned the guidebook, and then like the guidebook was great, but everything else about this property was just terrible. Uh,
But it was
uh,
still a 4 star. Oh, wait, though you said 99%. So there's that outlier 1%. Yep.
yeah, but I'm outside of and maybe how to use the property, things to do in the location. Where do you see guidebooks really enhancing the guest experience once people are there?
Oh, once people are there. Okay, so you just completely took off the whole pre-arrival
Yeah.
part. Okay. So once they're there, so troubleshooting Wi-Fi, troubleshooting the coffee maker, you making sure, gosh, coffee, tea, all that. Your morning caffeine has got to be clear. So you need to be aware, is it something that needs a video instruction? Does it need text instruction? I would recommend both. I like to read text. My husband loves to watch the video.
So just to double click on that a little bit. So, as part of your guidebook for anything that might be tricky for guests in the property, I'm not entirely straightforward of like how to change the temperature, how to set it, how to turn on the TV, how to get the hot tub running the right way. Like for each of those sort of potential pain points, you could have both text and video demonstrations and have that sort of embedded in your guidebook?
Absolutely, and highly recommend that. So on spring break one year, I took my kids down to Orlando, and it was warm. It's Florida, even though it was March. And we get to the house, and I wanted to make sure the AC dropped down because most of the time you get there and it's what, mid 70s, but it's nighttime. We didn't arrive till like 1 a.m. and it was way too hot in the house. And I was looked everywhere for the thermostat. I could not find it. All I could find was these white alarm looking boxes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're blank. I don't know what to do. I looked around there wasn't a digital guidebook. There was not even a manual that was printed with the 3-ring binder and the snotty nose stuff on it. Nothing. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a horrible night. We didn't sleep that well. So the next day I texted the property manager, and comes to find out, one of those white boxes that just looked like an alarm box was actually the thermostat. And I had to touch it for it to light up, and then I could do things with it. And I'm just thinking, it's those types of things where we as property managers and hosts know the property. We think, oh, well, of course someone knows how to work that, right? But in reality, no, you have to make sure, because our guests, and I mean this, Jamie, I mean this with so much love in my heart, but I'm going to say it. Our guests are stupid. They can
Uh-huh.
be very, very, very much so. And what we just say is they leave their brains at home. The brains go on vacation also. So you've got to make sure that you have all that information on things that you might think are just perfectly normal, when you know what, they might put the code in on the lock and then forget to actually click the check mark button to open it. Every single lock is a little bit different. So we ended up making videos. Put your code in and then tap the check mark, or the old Schlags, put your code in and then you have to turn the deadbolt. All of those little types of things. Too many phone calls, flashbacks, memories. We can't get in. Did you turn the deadbolt? No, that's a great idea. Oh, we're in now. Oh, yes.
So, given that, and you said guests aren't always thinking intelligently while on vacation, do you have any advice on how to go about thinking through what you actually need to document? Given that, as I'm thinking through like my front door and my short-term rental, like would sort of make sense to me that you would turn the doorknob, but is that something that I need to call out? Like, how do you go about coming up with this list of everything that needs to be in your guidebook?
So I have the benefit of 17 years of guest questions.
Mhm.
So every time we get a question, we look at it as, is this something that is truly a one-off question that we need to handle with the guest? Or is this something that we've seen repeated and this is something we need to change with our process and the way we communicate, because we're not quite connecting with the guest and we need to communicate better. So when you start out, you do everything you think is possible that you got it. And then you have to listen to your guests after that. And they'll let you know. They'll let you know if they can't work that lock. You'll get the call at 1 a.m. when they're coming back from a wedding reception, and they can't find the house because Google Maps isn't quite correct with the address, but they didn't want to follow the instructions you put in the digital guidebook because they never even looked at it, because guess what? Someone else booked it and they weren't given the information. So there's all these different scenarios that can totally happen, and you have to listen. That's the big thing, is you have to listen.
That's good advice. So, maybe jumping back, pre-stay, we talked about, 3 to 5 communications, some number of those being maybe something on upsell, something on extended stay. Do you have, like, a organization on how to think about, and the types of communication and when they should go out and what they should be actually about, as and we're sort of staggering the communications with the guests?
Yeah, funny you should ask. I actually have my entire guest communication flow on my personal website, tyannmarcink.com/blog. And then TouchStay has a guest communication planner. And I will get you guys that link as well. And it helps you to plan how your guest communication should go, because not everybody should have as many as I have. So if you go over to my blog and you see it, you're like, oh my gosh, she has 25 touch points. It's
But
literally
there's a
25.
reason why you're the queen, right?
Yes, yes. But it's because I know my guests. I know my booking window. I know the type of guest who's coming. I know how much money they're paying me, how many nights they're on average they're staying, and I shoot my communications directly like arrows right at them. So I know what they need, when they need it, and then I tell it to them just a couple days ahead of time. So it's like I'm reading their mind. I know it's coming up. And what happens is then they feel like, oh, wow, they understand us. They know what's going on. They're preparing for us. They're going to welcome us. And the trust in us just gets deeper and deeper and deeper every single time. And it's no longer this, well, I sent her $10,000. Um, I hope we have a place to sleep. What's going to happen? Instead, it's, oh, yeah. they got us, you know, and on top of that, they get donuts. Surprise. And sometimes it's by us specifically. You know, we'll knock on the door and say, hey, here's some donuts for you guys.
So, when thinking about a digital guidebook, like, and at first thought, like, and Airbnb, Verbo, Booking have these digital guidebooks associated with the OTAs, right? It kind of feels like they're an afterthought and maybe haven't progressed in quite a while. But how do you sort of see or show the additional value of having a dedicated guidebook over and above what the OTAs offer hosts?
So one, look at your marketing. Are you going to stay with just the one single OTA? Then yeah, go deep into their tools and then your business is reliant on them. Or if you're looking at spreading your marketing around, you're doing direct bookings, you're doing social media, you're doing all that, then me personally, I want the best of the best. I want what fits my business model the best so that when other things shift and change underneath you, you've got a solid foundation of what your business is, what your tech stack is, what your flow is. And with TouchStay digital guidebooks, Jamie, when they first asked me to come on board with them, I actually told them the product was quite ugly. And I said, no. I'm like, I can't work with a product that just is not visually appealing. It was another year or two later that Andy came back to me. He goes, okay, we changed it. Take a look. Like, all right, this I can work with because it's something that is an extension of me as a property manager and a host. So it is full on. This is who we are. This is how we're communicating. The brand, the colors, the photos, everything. It all comes together. So it's literally an extension of me. And like when I talk to like bed and breakfast folks, the innkeepers, they say, "Oh, we love the interaction with our guests." Like, yeah, I get that. So do I. But you cannot be next to your guest in their pocket when they're driving to a restaurant because they already forgot what it is that you told them. Yes, they could text you, but that's not the same thing. I mean, what if you're asleep already? You know, that's not going to work. So, what this is, it's literally a helping hand in the guest pocket to help them out 24/7 so that we as humans can focus on what we as humans do best, the face to face, the smiles, the hospitality, and we let the tech do its work and we can be humans.
No, that's great. And you've sort of mentioned quite a few times in your sort of experience as a property manager, and how you're sort of and marrying the two. And it sounds like you've got a full-time job with TouchStay, but maybe talk a little bit about like the business that you're running and with your family and how that's progressed.
Yeah, so I started, like I said, way back when 17 years ago, on my own, three little kids, built a second one, and then I didn't really do anything more until till later in life. Walk through a fire. I would say my first husband left me, and through that, then I decided, hey, I need to do something else to support myself. And I absolutely adore and love and quite addicted to the vacation rental industry. So that's when I bought a bank. And that's the bank you can legally launder at in the Ozarks, if anybody ever wanted to do that. And then, that was the rehab, and it just grew from there, the reputation I had around town, around the county, and then down in Branson, it started to grow as well. So everything was very organically growing, everything, by word of mouth. I don't advertise being a property manager, because I very, very, very quickly realized how important it is to be a business partnership with your homeowner clients. So having good, solid business foundation, partnership foundation, and making sure we gel, make sure that their definition of success is the same as our definition of success, that they understand our business model is we get control of just about everything. And that way they can be completely hands off. And we work very well with those types of clients. And it's done very well with us. But like you said, we all know that's a full time and more job. And then I also work with Touch Day. So it's something that I say I'd rather start a business than clean a house. And the only way I can do this is because I got a fantastic team with me on both sides, with Touch Day and my family, because it is a family business. My husband works with me. We've hired his daughter and her husband. My youngest son's even started cleaning for us as well. So it's something that is incredible, and all my sons have grown up knowing to set up houses. So when it's set up house time, they're like, "Mom, I wanna earn some money." I'm like, "Yes, you can." And there's some of the people I can be like, "Kitchen is yours. Here's the boxes, go for it." And they already know exactly what to do, taking every single little sticker off, washing every single thing, wiping down the inside of the cabinets first. They got the routine down.
I had my younger brother this weekend up helping me put together furniture at our new short-term rental coming up. So it's
I mean, you trained for this, Jamie, with Legos. That was training your entire life.
it definitely felt like moving into the professionals trying to build a playground playset. That was adult Legos.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, and setting up a vacation rental is so much more work than anyone ever tells you. I know a lot of times I got to the point, I figured some things out very quickly. It's like, "All right, you get a team. That's all there is to it. You cannot do it on your own. You have to have help."
Yep. No, my wife is not very happy with me right now that we did not set up a team to start with, but we're making our way through it.
See, I mean, you can't make absolute perfect decisions every single time because
Right.
then you will never know when those perfect decisions are. So, therefore, you make some fairly poor decisions and then you recognize, well, that one over there was awesome. So, let's celebrate that.
Yeah. So what does your vacation rental business look like today? You said you guys are managing, you own. What does the mix look like?
Yeah, so in Branson, we own 4 and manage another 10, so we're at 14. And then in Missouri wine country, I've got 2 historical properties and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah, and then 7 other properties, I think. Yeah, we just onboarded a new one. In wine country, the historical area, it's yes, it's wine country. A lot of funerals and weddings, and but our biggest client over there is the dog show folks. We're right by Purina Events. So those folks, I mean, gosh, they book a year in advance, a year and a half in advance, and they'll book up weeks at a time. It's incredible.
Yeah, so I imagine with a title like of Guest Experience, there's maybe some expectations either externally or internally on what that experience is going to look like for a guest. And how do you sort of marry and needing to run a business that's and financially successful with also sort of meeting those high expectations that you might have for how that business is going to be run?
Oh, really, really good question. It comes down to communication. And if I don't communicate with my team, it's a failure. A touch say, yes, it's digital guidebooks for properties, but I actually also use it as a field guide for my team where it sets those expectations. It has the templates for wording, how to answer guest questions. So different processes that my team does with the different pieces of tech or with guests. And then we also have what's called a standard property appearance guide, an SPA, and that helps the cleaning teams to know how things are supposed to be staged, what it's supposed to look like. And then we've got our property management guide where I sell our property services. So if someone says, "Hey, can I have information?" I just send them over the link to that guide. So that communication completely, very much so, helps my team to understand my expectations of them. But in the meantime, also, they know and I know that no one's perfect. And I also have to give my team a lot of grace and I give myself a lot of grace because as you said, I'm balancing a lot of things and no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. I will drop things. And a lot of times that means apologizing to someone, or it could mean instead of greeting the guest that night of arrival, we might have to do it, the next morning instead. So just kind of shifting and adjusting things and not being very strict on things. It's like, okay, this is the path we want, but there could be just little variances here and there. But overall, what we're wanting to communicate to the guest is that I'm going to say we love them. I mean, the word love has so many different meanings, and in English we only have one word versus Greek there's a lot of words for the love, but it's we want to give them hospitality. We want to know that we care for them. We're going to take care of them while they're here, that they have a space to for their family memories, their family bonds, to strengthen, a place to rest, and how they come away and how they feel. That is the most important part to us.
Oh, that's awesome. How much has this evolved? So from 2007 to today, and Airbnb's become a noun and a verb. It didn't exist when you got started in this industry. You were mailing in photos to Verbo or to HomeAway, before Verbo even bought HomeAway. And we've seen, and Airbnb's now the fishing lodging provider, the Olympics. Like, it's gone so mainstream. The guest profile, I'm sure, has changed and dramatically as it's become more mainstream. How do you see that guest expectations have changed for, vacation rentals?
Yeah. So way back when, I think it was like 2013 or so, HomeAway had this statistic that only 30% of the United States even knew what a vacation rental was. And us, me being within the industry, I'm like, that can't be. But then I realized most of my town had no idea what I did. I could not connect with other moms of preschoolers because, they had no idea what that was. And then I met my husband on Match.com. And guess what he thought I did, Jamie? He thought I did timeshares. He had never heard of vacation rentals. So that right there, it's like, okay, you're right. It has evolved tremendously from, in 2007, I had drafts in my Gmail and I had to remind myself, okay, yes, I want to send my directions 2 weeks out. Yes, I want to send the door code information 3 days out. Yes, I want to call my guest. Well, guess what? I was raising 3 little boys and that did not always happen. And one day I got a phone call. It was like 100 degrees in the summer. The guests were standing on the porch and I forgot to give them their door code. So I also was not available for over an hour, them trying to get a hold of me as two. What that meant was they got pizza and ice cream as well as their door code once I answered the phone. So evolving from the point of not having processes, trying to figure things out, to now, anybody who starts now, there are so many shortcuts that you can do. I would say, well, not shortcuts, but the learning curve of those who have gone before. So anyone who decides to take the time to talk to people who've been around and made those mistakes, then you can skip those mistakes. It used to be, well, when you get that first double booking, because it's going to happen, then you've made it, right? And I didn't have a PMS until I got my first double booking. And I'm like, wait a second, I need some tech. And at that point, there was like 5 choices. And now folks have, well over 100 different choices. And it's just incredible. So, what's happened over the evolving of the time is one, more people know about this way to travel. The guest expectations part is different and higher, and I think it's a lot to do with COVID as well. So, and the value of, hey, rates are going up, we're going to expect more from you, and then all the different things that happen with that, and then the fact with the evolving of, yes, more people know about it, but then you also get those extra bonuses of, hey, let's build tech to solve this pain point, or let's create this process to solve this pain point. Let's have a way to educate those coming into this area so they don't have to make the really, really bad mistakes. Because before, when I made my mistakes of forgetting the door code for an hour, that was totally forgivable back in pre 2010. But now happening, that means that you could have a guest that gives a 1-star review and a total refund, and you are screwed. So it's very, as you said, it's very, very different, and it's managing those different things that come at your way. I think a lot of host and property managers now, that if you're going to, and I will say survive, if you're first going to survive, but then to thrive, You have to be able to shift and move to what's needed as things dramatically change.
No, that makes sense. Things have changed so much over the past decade. What do you think is going to be a major driver of industry sort of change over the next decade? Is it guest experience? Is it services? Is it tech? Like what do you see being some of the things that maybe we see the inkling of now, but are going to probably fundamentally change the experience or the business of vacation rentals going forward?
So I don't know that we're going to see much new, but I think it's going to be more like a cycle. So I think we've already seen it where people are going backwards to what they think is new. So, very much leaning into more of the hospitality, more into the experiences. But how we're going to evolve is we're going to be able to better serve them, whether it is with tech or with ideas, and able to get more marketing out to them so that more people know about it. I mean, social media alone is that's what they've done is they've gotten more communication out. So we as small businesses will have to be able to do socials better. We're going to change our marketing. We're going to change our communications, and we will have to evolve with that. But as the folks, I mean, I remember so when I was little, we would do these trips down to Branson and you'd stay at these A-frame resorts. Well, that totally went out of fad. I mean, the resort totally died. Who wants to stay in an A-frame, right? I mean, this was happened 35 years ago when they were really cool. Well, guess what's come back around? A-frames. A-frames are awesome now. Everybody wants the experience of an A-frame. It's not like they're new, but what's happened is you've got a whole new generation of people coming in and they think it's new because it's new to them. So everything it's going to come back in a cycle. I mean, I don't know, Jamie, how you were in the 90s, what your fashion style was, but I'm not thrilled with that cycle coming back for sure. But I think it's gonna be the same way with travel, and what we're going to do is we're going to, create tech to support that in new ways, but overall, it's just a cycle, and you can see it coming, and then you can lean into it.
Well, Dan, this has been great getting to talk with you. Like, last question, and then maybe you can share a little bit on how to find you, how to find more about Touch Stay. Is there sort of a highlight in terms of guest experience that either you've had or like you've seen from your, and are you provided for guests, or like any good stories you have on guest experience that you can sort of close out with?
Ooh, yes. Okay, so I have plenty. Do you want one that where it just about brings you to tears, or do you want one that's like, "Oh my gosh, you can't be serious?"
The oh my gosh one.
Okay. So we had a guest come. She's a repeat guest. She comes to visit family. And this time it was her dad had passed away. This is the second to last family member in the area. She has a particular house that she likes to stay in. This is our historical brand over in wine country. And she's there. And of course, she's devastated. Her dad has passed. She has her family with her. And every single day she's calling or texting 2 or 3 times. And we get it. Okay, we're gonna be therapy also, because sometimes that happens, right? So she keeps extending her stay, which is awesome. Get those orphan nights in, right? It gets to the point where, we have a new guest coming in. And so she departs that morning. And I gave the team off that evening. So my husband and I, we go out to pizza and we're sitting there to eat pizza. The new guest is checking in and we get a phone call from this woman. And she says, "Hey, I'm really sorry, but I think I left my dad at the house." We're like, "What do you mean you left your dad at the house?" "Well, he's in the urn." And I'm like, "Okay, so you mean we need to go search the house for a dead body?" And not only that, Jamie, the new guest has already checked in. So now I'm leaving my dinner to go to the house and tell the guest I need to search the house for a dead body. No worries, there's no ghost or anything, but we need to get this for the other guest. And so we went over there, and thankfully only one of their group had checked in, and it was a teenager, and he's like, "Oh, whatever, that's cool. Go do what you need to do." We looked around the house, and And, you would normally think, it's an urn, Tyann. Why didn't your cleaners see an urn? And why is that not out of place? Well, this is a historical home with lots of knickknacks and vases everywhere. So it's like literally the one house where an urn can blend in. It's this house. So we go in, we search everywhere. We ask the cleaner, did you notice anything a little bit odd, a little off, a little different? And we cannot find it. So we call the guest back. I'm like, I'm really sorry. We cannot find it. We promised we searched everywhere, cannot find it. So she's like, okay, well, maybe I packed it in my brother's car. And I'm like, no, really? You call us before you call your brother. Okay. And thankfully, yes, the dad made it back with the brother. He did not stay at the house. All good.
Well, I guess it could have turned out much worse.
Could have. Yes, yes.
But a good experience, hopefully a good review came out of that.
We did.
And
Yeah.
another repeat booking down the line.
Well, she has one family member left, so we'll see.
Okay. Well, Tyann, how do people find you? I would suggest everyone follow you on Twitter. I love following you on Twitter. It's always a good story, always great experiences that you share with everyone. Where else can they find you?
Thank you. So yeah, all favorite socials. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of them, same at Tyann Marcink. And then Touch Day as well as at Touch Day, or Instagram's at Touch Day Welcome. My website, TyannMarcink.com, Touch Day's website, touchday.com. Use the code word QUEEN if you want to check out Touch Day free trial and get a little special after that when you sign up. And that's about where that's all the places. I'm everywhere.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. This was a blast.
Thank you.